Chapter 8 Dronacharya. In many movies, we observe that the protagonist or the hero gets introduced and his background is described. While that happens, simultaneously, the movie depicts the background of other characters like the heroine or the villain. At some point in the movie, the various characters come together and their life intermingles to create the rest of the story. Similarly, the Mahabharata, being an epic of magnitude, has several characters. We are now getting into the crux of the story. Before we continue with the story, we need to be aware of some important characters. An understanding of the background of these characters will enable us to appreciate the story adequately. The first of these characters is Drona. The word Drona means a vessel or basket. He got this name because Drona was not gestated in a womb but was formed outside the human body in a vessel called Drona. Such mystical occurrences were common in the Mahabharata era as sages, rishis, and divine powers were very much a part of the world we live in. Drona grew up in poverty. He learned the Vedas, Shastras, and was particularly skilled in archery. When Drona was a student, another student studied along with him. This student was the Panchala prince called Drupada. When they studied together, Drupada and Drona were very close friends. They shared everything from meals to clothes. Drupada promised Drona that when he became king, he would give Drona half his kingdom. Later, Drupada went on to become the king of Panchala. Drona, however, stayed back. Drona married Kripi, who was the sister of Kripacharya, and had a son called Ashwatthama. Drona was content with what he had, even though he lived in poverty. However, his heart wept when he watched his wife Kripi and his son Ashwatthama struggle as a result of being poor. Drona loved his son very dearly. One day, when Ashwatthama was a child, he was very hungry. There wasn't any milk in the house. His mother did not even own a cow to give him milk. She mixed some wheat flour with water to make it look like milk and fed him. On seeing this, Drona was very sad. He did not mind being poor, but he couldn't bear to watch his wife and son struggle like this, even without basic necessities. Drona heard that the great Parashurama was giving away all his wealth to poor Brahmanas before retiring into the forest. He went to see Parashurama. Unfortunately, Parashurama had given away all his wealth before Drona got there. Parashurama felt sorry and said, "Dear Brahmana, I have nothing left to give. The only things left in my possession are my body and my weapons. Choose which you want, and I shall gladly give them to you." Drona chose the weapons, and Parashurama gave it to him and also taught him how to use these divine weapons and the magic mantras that went along with it. He also taught him the use of the famous Brahmastra. This made Drona a very powerful warrior. However, Drona was still poor. He still had no money or possessions. He remembered the promise made by his childhood friend Prince Drupada, who was now King Drupada, that he would give Drona half his kingdom upon becoming the king. For the sake of his wife and son, Drona went to see Drupada. He was not interested in getting half the kingdom. All Drona wanted was a few little items that would enable his son and wife to live comfortably and eat hearty meals. When Drona reached Drupada's palace, his childhood friend was very indifferent to him. Drupada was drunk with power. He neither respected nor regarded Drona. He taunted him, saying, "How dare you claim yourself to be my friend? How can a king like me be a friend of a beggar like you? Go before I lock you in chains." Drona's feelings was very hurt. He felt betrayed by someone whom he considered to be a close friend. He left the palace silently, but in his heart he vowed revenge. Drona then took his wife and son and left for Hastinapura to his brother-in-law Kripacharya's house. Kripacharya was the teacher of the Pandavas and the Kauravas. On reaching Hastinapura, Drona saw the Pandavas and Kauravas playing with a ball. Drona stood by his side watching the boys play. During the course of the game, the ball fell into a well. All the children surrounded the well, not knowing how to get the ball out. While they clamored around the well trying to think of a way to get the ball out, Yudhishthira's ring also fell inside. The boys were anxious and confused. Drona, watching all this, spoke out. "O princess, you are the descendants of the great Bharata race and have been taught archery and other skills at arms. Do you not know how to get a ball out of a well?" To this, Yudhishthira, the eldest, laughed and said, "Well, since you seem so confident, why don't you do it?" Drona took a blade of grass and uttered a mantra. He then used the blade of grass as an arrow and shot it into the well. The grass stuck onto the fur of the ball. Drona then shot another blade of grass, which stuck behind the first blade of grass. He did this again and again in quick succession to form a long chain. Now, catching hold of the last blade of grass, Drona pulled the ball out of the well gently. He then shot another arrow into the well that hit Yudhishthira's ring and bounced back holding the ring at its tip. The boys were astounded. In excitement, they rushed to the palace and reported this incident to Bhishma, their grandfather. Bhishma instantly realized that this was Drona, having himself heard of the many powers and skills of this great archer. Bhishma called for Drona and after paying him due respect, asked him to become the guru of the Kuru princes, to train them in advanced military arts. Drona then established his Gurukula near the city, where the Pandava and Kaurava princes studied under him. This village came to be known as Guru Gram, Guru meaning teacher and Gram meaning village. Today, that place is known as the city of Gurgaon. Drona henceforth became known as Dronacharya, which meant Drona the Guru. The story of Drona has been told in this narrative to explain the prowess of this great archer. His innate skills and the powers he obtained from Parashurama made Drona an unparalleled warrior. Later in the story, we will see the value and importance of this great archer in the field of battle.